Hi and welcome to our Thickstroke competition results. So to celebrate the release of Thickstroke, we recently held a looping GIF competition because that's pretty much all Thickstroke is good for, creating random abstract GIFs. So in this video, we're going to go through all the different winners and runners up. So show off their work and what we liked and didn't like about it. We'll start with the runners up. So the runners up can either choose between the prize of Deep Glow or Cartoon Mobler. If you're smart, you'll choose Deep Glow because the retail price is higher. And for the absolute winners, you'll get Plugin Everything Bundle, valued at X many dollars. I don't know how much it's worth. Let's go through. Let's start with the runners up. So the first entry is by blight.ch on Instagram with this cool character animation piece. When I was creating the Thickstroke promo, I wanted to include some character animation, but I'm terrible at it, so none of it looked good. So I'm super happy that this is one of two entries that has some really cool character animation, and this style is sort of very 50s Jetsons. It's really cool. So that's why it gets a prize. Our next runner-up is by Benchix Art on Instagram. This is our second character animation one. This one was chosen by the School of Motion. This one has a very normal map, sort of interesting pastel style. Reminds me of art school. And I don't know whether the bubblegum animation was done with Thickstroke, but either way, it's a pretty unique entry. The next entry is by Mr. James Poole. This one combines some text and kinetic typography with Thickstroke. It's also got a stroke on the stroke and some grain happening as well. Altogether, a pretty cool mix. I think it could have used some polishing, maybe some easing, a bit more easing, but overall, nice work. Next up, we have this one by EK Motion from Instagram. I thought this one was awesome. It's very simple. I wanted to sort of give it like number 1 or 2, but it's a little bit simple. The aesthetic is very outrun or retro, and the worms, I don't know if they're meant to be worms or condoms because they've got strange little hats on their heads. A nice touch. I'm just gonna assume that they're worms, and they've kind of got some 3D, I don't know if it's fake 2D or real 3D with the heads rotating, so very nice work there. And when I say simple, I don't mean that as in a bad way, I just mean the stuff. This is by Seb.Mesnage. I absolutely love the color palette and simplicity of this one. A very complex gradient, very interesting multicolored gradient, and also some physics going on here, so that ticks all the boxes for me. So the physics are pretty good, but I think they could be a little more polished, as well as the gradient. I can tell it's not looping seamlessly between the cycles. So two minor things really. This one is by Andy the Timid on Instagram, and this one is very unique in that it's it loops quickly, but it's sort of feels like an old VHS or DVD loading screen. It's very trippy. This entry is by Ma by Design on Instagram, and this has to be the coolest typography entry we received. Thickstroke was kind of one of the big reasons I wanted to make Thickstrokes, because a lot of people do stroke and they kind of have to fake it. So this one is a really cool use of Thickstroke to write on text and also do it in a really stylistic way. He's also added some color, making use of the gradient feature, and also some wobble, and like the text, the font that he's used is very sort of, adds to that. This entry here is by Gino_illust on Instagram. This one is very simple, but I love the color palette. That's the simplicity of it, and the color palette is just simple and beautiful. Maybe a bit cliche using the infinity symbol, but I mean, that's what, as soon as I made this plugin and I was creating promo material, I went straight to that because that's just something cool and easy. So yeah, good work. This one is our second typography runner-up. This is by DLongo Design on recently the neon sign look. So my only advice for, like, I don't have any advice regarding the animation. I think it's great, but I think the glow, maybe use some deep glow. Some deep glow would be nice, and also maybe offset the text a bit from the back so it looks like it actually has a shadow, because it's kind of like one of those infinitely looping, well, it doesn't actually loop, so that could have been better, but it's kind of like one of those things that you would see on the wall in a conference call or in a church or something, and it would just loop in the background forever, which is your sort of layer up to make the effect more complex. I think it's nice. I think the color palette could have had something different. It's a very skin tone, but a very unique entry, and that is the last one of our runners up. So now we are moving on TV on Instagram, and this one is very simple. It's simply a drop, but it's got, you know, it's not just thick stroke, it's got some tasteful roughened edges. There are some displacement around the edges. It's got a beautiful sound effects. It's got really nice glow. I don't know how the ripples were done, but the ripples are really cool. And overall, very simple and beautiful. The next major winner was by Animatum Graphics on Instagram, and this one has some really cool animation paired to music. This one has some really cool like path animation and energy going through it. The angles change, it's very dynamic, and it all is paired to the beat, as well as having some gradient and some deep glow. So that has a lot going on. The colors are great, the depth of field is great, just the animation, I couldn't do anything like this. And so that's why it is deserving. And the last major prize winner, as chosen by School of Motion, is by Stefan Buffler. Sorry, I probably pronounced that incorrectly. This one is very interesting in that it kind of looks like that filter in Photoshop. It's kind of like that plastic wrap filter inside of Photoshop, but it actually looks good. Like, why I really love the second half is the colors look amazing. So the start has colorful elements pouring into the center, but the glow is just basically a sterile white glow. It's got no color in it. Whereas the end, it's got all these colors that are sort of overlapping each other and creates this beautiful effect. So that's it. Thank you to everyone who entered. To the winners, we'll be reaching out to you to see if we can publish your beautiful work on socials. And even to some people who didn't, if you didn't win, we still might contact you because we didn't have enough prizes. It was really tough to choose the top ones, the top 10-ish. So thank you so much for entering. So a massive thank you to School of Motion for being involved in this project, for judging and collecting entries. If you guys don't know, you probably do. They are a really cool online resource for learning animation and After Effects. We've got all their links in the description. Check them out, show them some love because they've been really kind to us.